Thank you guys all so very much, for jumping on. I'm over here in the States. You're over there, at least to my knowledge, in Finland, or are there other European countries that you're spread out in right now?
Yeah, even more than that. I think we are spread out over 3 countries right now. I'm talking from Germany here, and
I'm from Brazil.
Yes. Okay, that's right. I knew that. Okay,
So we have 3 continents.
Wow, how cool is that? How cool is that? And you guys still managed to come together and even record music together. Wow. So, okay, I'll just let you introduce yourself real quick. So, Jules, you have the floor right now, it looks like. So, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jules, and I'm the singer from Rootbrain.
I'm Thomas Wright. I'm the bass player and creative leader of Rootbrain.
I'm Victor, also known as V Santora. I'm the guitar player of Rootbrain, and some people also know me from my other bands, Triptychon and Dog Focus.
Excellent. Okay, so now you guys, Rootbrain, are extremely unique in that, given your backgrounds, bands like Triptychon, Profane Omen, Dark Fortress, Coolum and Laxo, and then the formation of Rootbrain itself, you're not playing Doom. You're not playing D-beat or speed. You're playing grunge. And I don't know of any other band on the planet that has members from let's say, a metal background that has come together to form grunge. Were you all fans of grunge during its heyday in the early 90s?
I think we have to establish here the meaning of grunge, because probably all the bands who were labeled as grunge coming from the Seattle, they hated that. They probably hated that. Or none of them wanted to be like, no, we're rock and roll, or we're whatever. But grunge was kind of like a stamp. I don't know, what was it made by the labels or something else, just to kind of have a stamp on the album to sell it better. I don't know. But I discovered, maybe I was a late bloomer for Alice in Chains, but that was it for me. Of course, I knew Nirvana because they were more commercial, and but that was never like the band for me, that from Seattle. And then because of I think Pearl Jam was also a band that I knew before Alice in Chains. But then when I discovered Alice in Chains, I kind of thought, okay, this is what grunge, in my opinion, kind of was, or the most grunge that I know. But yeah, I think it was somewhere when I was maybe 14 or something like that when I discovered it, and that was 95. So I was definitely coming on board very late on the grunge train. But that was it for me. I think they are definitely one of the biggest influencers for me. And even though I've been in bands that play death metal or thrash metal or speed metal, I always was a singer first, and a growler or shouter or screamer second. So I learned to sing first, and then I got interested into death metal and thrash metal and different extreme subgenres of metal. But it was always the kind of vocal lines of the first Metallica, but then definitely Lane Staley from Alice in Chains, and also Mike Patton from Faith No More. So that was my upbringing in like vocalist wise. But yeah, grunge probably for us is definitely not a swearing word, because we're so used to it that we can listen to a band and we can say, okay, that's grunge. In a way, you can kind of feel that, okay, it has some influences from those Seattle bands. So maybe grunge equals Seattle in the 90s in a way. But yeah, definitely for us, it's just a compliment of all those great bands that influenced our music, in my opinion.
How about you, Thomas?
Well, for my part, I always considered myself as a metalhead, but I was also a teenager in the mid-90s, so everything is just, I just love all the stuff of that age. And, when you're a teenager, everything just hits you really hard, and you get much more from music than for example, nowadays. And And of course, there was also like in my very first garage band, that was just a trio of me and a guitar player and a drummer. We were so sucky players that we played Nirvana songs, although we would have liked to play something more more brutal from the start. But Nirvana was a really good like introduction to loud music in the garage environment, and I think back then there wasn't this kind of just thinking with all the putting everything into boxes and all the subgenres that has really gotten out of hand nowadays. I don't think there was that kind of like mentality around it. So for me, it was not a problem to be really into extreme metal and then also dig these grunge bands, because also in the metal of the 90s, what I really love in there is it's just like it's less professional and less calculated, and all bands were doing crossover stuff like naturally and trying different elements and combining them. And nowadays it's completely different. That when a band starts, it kind of paints itself into a corner in the beginning that we are this really tiny subgenre, and then you're just allowed to use a couple of tools instead of having the whole toolbox. So it's always been about, for me, it's always been about good music. I mean, I grew up with bands like when I was a kid and I was playing with some toys, then I would listen to Queen or the Beatles, and I think Queen is a great example. I don't think they would get a record deal nowadays because the label guys would be like, "What the fuck are you rock band or are you disco or?" And we really like this singer. We can do something with this guy, but what are all these other guys? So the whole thinking like with these genres, I think that's something that has changed during the years. And
all right, V, how about you? Were you a fan during its heyday?
No, actually not. I got into grunge way later. Like I would say, if Jules says he was a bit late to the grunge game, I was about 2 decades later, I guess. I mean, yeah, of course, in the 90s, I knew Nirvana, but I was not crazy about them. I didn't hate them, but I was not really like into them. But especially like in the early 90s, I was really like a metalhead. Really, things had to be like extreme for me. Like I think when I was like 7th grade, there was like 1993, I was listening to death metal and black metal only. Metallica, oh, they had clean vocals. I can't listen to that anymore. Yeah, gladly I mellowed out a little bit. No, but seriously, I think I really discovered Alice in Chains for me when they had their comeback with Black Gives Way to Blue. I think that was in 2009 or something. When I heard that album, I thought like, whoa, this is awesome. I really like that. And I don't care if it's called grunge or whatever. I mean, if you listen to that album, like that guitar sound, it's so fat, so heavy. I mean, is it grunge? Is it metal? Is it rock? I don't really care, but it's really cool and great music. And then actually, when I was in Finland recording with Kuolema Laakso on their second album, that was in summer 2013, we were 3 weeks in a summer cabin and recording that album. I think that was the time when I got really hooked up with Dirt, and so I have no nostalgia to like old grunge or anything, but I really learned to love music because I was. Yeah, it's kind of timeless, and good music is good music, no matter from which decade it comes. But nevertheless, I also think that's I think that's our common ground, that we all really like certain music from the 90s, and that's where we draw our biggest influence.
Gotcha. Now, a couple weeks ago, when I was just sort of doing a top-down coverage of you guys, I was hypothesizing as to what bands might have been the main drivers behind Rootbrain. And I think you guys kind of did a pretty good job just a few minutes ago of spelling that out. However, it didn't occur to me until after the video was done that all of those bands that I assumed were influences, they were all from the US. Not one of them was from Europe. And I felt so ignorant after that because I said, these guys are all over there across the pond. I mean, so are you aware of any, or were there ever any grunge bands near you guys in your native countries that I'm not aware of? Because I can't think of one.
again, we hit the obstacle of how to define grunge, because I think it's something that bands get this stamp afterwards. But there's a band called Kyria. I don't think it goes into the grunge box, but it doesn't really go into any box. And it's a fucking cool Finnish band from the 90s. And the members have, after that, they've been in Amorphis and Him and like big international Finnish bands after that. But the actual Kyria never made it as big as it should have, considering the quality it has. But I don't know if there's like really like flannel shirt level grunge from Scandinavia or Europe that has had any kind of, I can't come up with any names at the moment, for example.
Nothing that you would probably call grunge, but that's also the thing again with the grunge definition. For me, it's more like, okay, all the bands from that certain period that played rock music and were from Seattle, that were the bands that were called grunge, and everybody else was not. But if I dare to say, or if I speak about influences that maybe I at least hear in our debut album Breakwater from non-American bands, I would, for example, name a band like Entombed, Wolverine Blues from Sweden. Mm-hmm. Or I would also say Chaos AD from Sepultura was I would say that's also some sort of influence from us.
I think I would come to that list like Paradise Lost from maybe Draconian Signs era. I have a little bit a feeling from our debut album that there is a chunk of some 90s Paradise Lost in that too. And I don't know if you guys agree, but I have a feeling of that. But I always felt that the debut album came from influences that were in a way mutual, especially with Seattle influence and also the Entombed, and I think everybody agrees with the Chaos AD that from Sepultura was also definitely we have listened to that album, and you can hear some influences on Breakwater from them. But I think maybe at least some songs, because Amorphis probably also as a Finnish band has been an important band from maybe almost all of us in the band. So maybe there are also something from the Tale from the Thousand Lakes era, Amorphis, that you can also maybe hear in our debut album. But I think most of the bands, they come from all over. But
I can also especially hear, besides all the bands that we just named, I can hear a lot of Thomas Wright.
Definitely.
That's the main influence, because of course, nobody is reinventing the wheel every time, but I think sure, we have influences, but I think we also have our own unique musical language.
You guys all just did a fabulous job of paving the way into my next question, which was originally, when it came to songwriting, sitting down, writing the riffs, crafting the songs, were there conventions that you were going to abide by that would ensure that the songs were unmistakably grunge, or was there more of a flexibility that allowed things for, let's say, okay, well, you just mentioned Paradise Lost, Jules. I was going to say, call me crazy, but there are times when you guys remind me of Arcturus a little bit. Maybe that's just me being on some kind of psychedelic drugs or something. But just for example, a New Leash on Life. At the back end of that song, to me, it sounds like there's a blast going on there. And I don't know if that was intentional or if it was just you guys having fun, or...
We never mentioned the word grunge when we were working on the song. So, and we also entered Victor's studio in the Breakwater sessions. In the beginning, we were just a trio of me, the guitarist Helle, and the drummer Fat Tony. And at that moment, it felt more. It had more like a black and rollish, very metal feel about it, but with this a bit edgy, punky approach to it. So I think the whole grunge thingy just landed when Jules came, and all of a sudden he did his vocal arrangements on the songs that were mostly clean vocals, and with all these vocal harmonies and stuff. And it was like just we at that point we kind of realized that okay, we have something really special here, that this doesn't really sound like anything that's around there at the moment. That there's kind of in the background all this very metal stuff going on, but on top of it, the vocals take it to a completely different direction, and that's something that was our advantage then with the Mothertomb EP sessions, when we actually, these are the tools that are useful, and we could approach it like in a more controlled way, because the whole Breakwater album is really just intuitive. There was no boundaries. It was just like stuff coming. I was in a horrible place in my life, and it was just a way of keeping sane, and I just kept like flooding with demos and sending them to Sami and this kind. And there was really no boundaries on what kind of riffs or songs, and it was just stuff that was coming out, and then I just recorded it, and yeah, it was very intuitive. And it's really when you listen to the album, it's quite diverse, the output there. So there's really.
So what are the plans for you guys? What's next? Are you looking at any sort of festivals, or maybe coming to the States or anything?
We'd love to come to the States and festivals too, but at the moment we are focusing on getting the EP out, and also working already on the next album, and then hopefully next year more live shows. Yeah,
and the EP should be out in January.
Yeah, I think we're going to get it here in January on Corpse Paint Records.
Exactly.
Yes, and then okay, so that's going to be the EP, Mothertomb, and then there's a full length coming after that. Not long after that.
Yeah, that's the plan. The ambitious plan is to start recording somewhere in the spring. Yeah.
Wow, and you're going to record it. Yeah, where's it going to be recorded is the question.
I guess it's yeah, let's see. I think I want to record the drums and also the rhythm guitars at my studio. With the EP, we recorded the drums in Germany in my studio, and we plan to do everything in Finland, kind of ghetto style. So that worked really well for certain things for me, like recording bass, recording vocals was awesome like that. But after that recording session that we had in Finland for the EP, I was not happy with how the electric guitar recordings went. So we redid the electric guitars again at my place. Also, Helle was coming over for like 2 days.
Okay. And Jules, are you going to record down at like Derek Green's studio?
I don't know yet. I think I would like to the vocals with Victor. So I guess maybe Victor has to fly over here, or I have to go to Munich. And but yeah, either way, actually, would be cool to record here if Victor can get his gear up here. No problem with that at all. That would be interesting. But yeah, I will make some demo vocals at my home before we get everything done and arranged everything to be ready. So I make a lot of work at home, and then when it's ready, then we just decide where we're gonna record the final vocals.
Well, guys, all right. You know, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I just want to say that it is really big that you know, you sat down with me today. It's a huge honor. You all have very, very colorful backgrounds. Victor, I got to admit, I never would have thought you would have been as you know, cool and nice as you are, because knowing you from Dark Fortress, you guys are all scary bastards in that band. So, yes. Yeah, very much so. So, all right. Like I said, I want to thank you so much. Is there anything that you'd like to part with?
No, I want to say one thing. I was really impressed by your review of our album. You took a really like a nice deep dive to our music, and yeah, I was really blown away by your review. I'm really glad you did that. Really happy about the review.
Thank you so much. I mean, hearing that from somebody with such a huge background in Profane Omen and other projects that you have. For somebody like me, that means an enormous deal. So things like that, that's the essence of life right there. I can't even tell you how much that means to me that I got you guys' validations on that and everything. So thank you, to high hell. I really, truly mean that. Holy shit. Thank you very much. Wow.
Well, thank you, man.
Oh, no,
Yeah,
it was my honor and my pleasure. I swear to God on that. So yeah, Thomas, is there anything you'd like to part with?
no, I just completely agree with what Jules said, and I really appreciate. And there was really some proper effort put in what you do and what you did. So respect.
Oh man, thank you so very much. And of course, V, is there anything you'd like to part with?
I'm always having trouble with the famous last words in interviews, so I usually skip them. But I also want to say thank you and thanks for having us and for putting the word out to the world that there is Rootbrain. And very nice talking to you, man.
Yes, of course. And I'm excited, and I know that there's going to be a lot of other people out there that are excited, and we're looking forward to January. And then I didn't know that there was a full length planned also for next year, so that's really big news. So, well, all right, guys. On behalf of myself and all the headbangers out there that love heavy metal and also love grunge and derivatives and everything, maybe the shoegazers of today, things like that. Thank you guys so very much, and we'll see you on the road.